Are you gonna be ready for this report?
All right, it is 6:30 and we'll bring this meeting to order. Let's start with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And with that, could we have roll call, please?
Yes. Mayor Smith,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Swart,
Here.
Trustee Valentine, Trustee Stelter,
Here.
Trustee Check,
Here.
Trustee Hunter,
Here. Trustee Heck. You.
you have a forum.
Thank you.
Mr. Valentine is there.
So would someone like to, first of all, does anyone have anything they want to change on the agenda before I ask for approval of the agenda?
No seconds. I did.
Okay. All right, with that, will somebody make a motion? Yes, trustee Hunter?
I move to approve the agenda with the addition of the second proclamation for Autism Acceptance Month.
And I'm going to reverse them. I'm going to do autism first. Well, here's why. Okay, because I'm assuming that, for your motion, let me just make sure I want to do that. Is Jessie Rochelle on Zoom? Okay, she is joining us from the Club Foundation, and they're the ones that asked for the National Donate to Life Month. So I thought I'd have her end it with her. She was going to speak to this, but Stefan, if reversing the order, is that a problem?
Depending on how long appreciations go.
Oh, they
A
want me.
minute?
Can you keep it longer?
Oh. Would it be better to, because I'm gonna okay. Would you like me to not? I bet Jessie would not mind listening to our autism proclamation as well, if it would help. I'll keep them in the original order. Would that help?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Do we have a second? Okay, all in favor? That motion passes. Thank you very much. So with announcements, we will start with appreciations.
Okay, well, first of all, Paonia K-8 is once again in our appreciations because their middle school destination imagination, whoop, there it is. They won first prize at the Colorado Destination Imagination State Tournament this past Saturday. It's an incredible group of kids, and maybe perhaps one day in the future we can have them visit town hall. So anyhow, congrats to them. Thank you to Ruben and Hector for organizing the fundraiser for the Community Food Pantry and the Paradise by sponsoring Tremors. This is a quote. You made it a very fun evening. And Ruben, once again, looked amazing. Thank you to everyone who participates in our democracy, whether that's voting in the recent election, writing letters to the editor, contacting representatives, or participating in the peaceful protest on Saturday. Thank you.
You.
I love walking through town and smelling all the blooming trees and plants. And Jay Cadode also got a second thing because, wow, thank you for capturing the treasure that is Reedy's and sharing it with the community. And hopefully he'll show his film again. And then personally, this is from me. Thank you to the woman at the Community Free Box who suggested that I take this free shirt. It's my favorite. And if you haven't been to Community Free Box, it's awesome. So those are appreciations for tonight.
Thank you. That's good. We have two proclamations tonight, and I am going to read the first one, which is Autism Awareness and Acceptance Month. Whereas the town of Paonia is guided through its mission statement to ensure a quality of life for all residents, and by the principles of inclusivity in its commitment to help improve the lives of all individuals in the diverse community it serves, and whereas autism impacts people regardless of race, ethnicity, and socioeconomic backgrounds. And whereas while conditions characterized with autism may challenge communication, social skills, and behavior in the individuals within the autism spectrum disorder community present, varying qualities, strengths, and challenges. And whereas in the month of April, we strive to promote autism awareness, inclusion, and acceptance. And the town of Paonia is committed to providing equitable access to services, events, and activities that support self-determination of all autistic individuals. And whereas the town of Paonia recognizes the importance of creating spaces that beyond acceptance provide opportunities for representation and celebration of all autism groups. And whereas the town of Paonia seeks to create a socially conscious community that values and celebrates the unique individuals within the ASD community, which celebrates all kinds of minds. Now, therefore, the Town of Paonia Board of Trustees does hereby proclaim the month of April to be designated as Autism Awareness and Acceptance Month and encourages the community to join advocacy efforts. Thank you very much. And then, I don't think the students are here, but we have 2 awards to give out for students that won the 2025 Arbor Day poster contest. And we have awards for them. And this first one is for Opal Kians, who goes to the North Fork School of Integrated Studies. And we're very proud of the work that they did. And by the way, if you look out on the window, out in the hallway, all of the posters are hanging there, and the 2 that were the winners are separated, and they are they're identified as the winners. And we have a second winner in Paonia, again for the 2025 Arbor Day poster contest. And this is Ivor Langston, and I don't know, I should have asked. This student goes to Paonia K-8, and I hope you are able to get these to them. Thank you very much for making those, and thank you to the kids for the winners. And plus, I don't know if you noticed, the posters that are hanging in the hallway are phenomenal. And then we have one last proclamation for tonight, and it's the National Donate Life Month. And I'm going to read the proclamation, but I also want to introduce Jessie Rochelle, who will join us via Zoom after I'm done reading the proclamation. She works for the Chris Klug Foundation, and they were the organization that asked us to honor Donate Life Month this month and read the proclamation. And when I'm finished, I'll turn it over to Jessie to allow her to say a few words. So with that, let me give this reading. I now need readers a shot. So National Donate Life Month Proclamation 2025. Whereas April 2025 is the 22nd annual National Donate Life Month, a time to raise awareness for organ, eye, and tissue donation, encourage Americans to register as donors, and honor those that have saved and healed lives through the gift of donation. And whereas 95% of Americans support organ donation, but only 48% register. Yet one donor can save up to 8 lives through organ donation, save and heal more than 75 lives through tissue donation, and help restore sight in up to 2 people through cornea transplants. And whereas Colorado has led the nation with more than 2/3 of Coloradans selflessly registering to be organ, eye, and tissue donors at the Department of Motor Vehicles. And whereas in Colorado in 2024, a record 311 heroic organ donors provided 947 life-saving transplants, and 1,860 heroic tissue donors saved and healed nearly 144,000 individuals through tissue grafts. And whereas registering gives hope to the 1,300 plus people waiting for a life-saving organ transplant in Colorado, while compassionately celebrating donors and their families for giving the gift of life. And Whereas organ, eye, and tissue donation is only possible with our communities and partners coming together for one united purpose. Saying yes to being an organ, eye, and tissue donor is not just checking a box, it is saving and healing lives. In witness whereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause to be affixed the official seal of the town of Paonia this 8th day of April. Thank you. And Jesse, if you'd like to say a few words, I'm turning it over to you.
Great. Thank you so much. I just wanted to take a moment to thank you guys for doing this proclamation, for taking the time to recognize April as National Donate Life Month. You heard some of the facts, and I just wanted to add a personal touch. I'm the daughter of a heart recipient who will be celebrating 10 years this year. And so this work is very, very special to me. You heard some of the important facts in that proclamation, but I wanted to, show the face of a recipient family and how important this work is and how much we believe in it, and really appreciate the opportunity to get before boards and have your support. There's just two of us at the foundation. And so anytime we can help or have help spreading the message, we're, eternally grateful for that. So thank you guys for your time tonight. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you very much I know you couldn't be here in person, but thank you for joining us on Zoom. Appreciate it very much.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just over here in Carbondale.
Oh, hey, come on over some other time.
Absolutely. I love Paonia. Side note, I work part-time for the Parks and Rec department here, and I do senior field trips, and the seniors love to come over to Paonia for some wine tasting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And this is now the portion of the agenda where we ask folks in the audience or on Zoom if they'd like to come up and speak on any topic that is not on the agenda. And if you'll raise your hand, I'll recognize you and come on up to the podium, state your name and whether you live in town or out of town, and please sign the sign-up sheet that is at the podium. And you have 3 minutes and direct all comments to me.
So what do you have to say? Say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yes, thanks, Abby. With that, if anybody would like to come up and speak on any topic not on the agenda, I'm recognizing the person standing in the aisle. Come on up.
Good evening. I'm called Madeline. I live in the county, not in the town, but I do love Paonia. And time and again, I see too much regulation with land use codes on people, strangling people. And I've learned that the more laws and rules, the more corrupt a society, because why would you need so many rules and laws? So I believe that it's good to have rules and laws, but not overbearing. And we saw the defeat of the land use code, the supposed Airbnb land use code for Paonia, and that should be respected. And I think that the community should be given a chance to have input and actually present something to you that would work for the community.
I'm sorry to stop you, but that's actually on the agenda tonight.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to stop you there.
Okay.
There'll be an opportunity later that you could speak.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you. Anyone else in the audience that wants to speak on something not on the agenda?
You don't want to hear what I have to say.
No,
But I will.
Don't.
Jackson, I don't live in town, I live up on the mesa. I appreciate, Kathy, that you appreciate people. But it sounded political to me when you said you were appreciating the peaceful protest, because that is not in the middle. So would you have said the same thing if someone had had an Elon Musk Trump protest? Would you have appreciated it? Think about that. It just hit me when you said it. Elon Musk is autistic. How many of us appreciate Elon Musk?
Thank
That's
you.
it.
Anyone else that come up and speak? Something not on the agenda. And seeing none in town hall, is there anyone on Zoom who wanted to speak? Seeing none? Okay, all right. Thank you very much. We'll now move on to the consent agenda, which consists of set of meeting minutes, March 11th and March 25th, and two liquor license renewals and disbursements. So I will put it to the trustees as to whether you have any comments on any of the content in the consent agenda.
Madam Mayor, I have
Yes.
a comment on the March 25th regular meeting minutes. There are two items, the consent agenda and item number 9 about the body cams that don't list who seconded those motions. So I would like to remove those minutes from the consent agenda.
Any other comments on the consent agenda? I had one comment on Thomas Waldo's, and on the form, there was not a box checked as to whether they own or lease the building. Oh, no, they said they leased the building, but the form is missing when that lease is up. So if you could insert that before I sign.
We don't generally put leases in there. They update them and they go into their file. So, but they did present us with a lease.
I guess I'm bringing it up because Rio Bravo had when their lease was up in their form.
Oh, they had it filled out.
Yes, they had it filled out. So I wondered why you didn't, wasn't filled out for
They
Waldo.
must have missed putting that in there. I'm sorry, I thought you were talking about the actual lease. I was like,
No, just when the lease is up.
Yeah.
So that was not provided for Thomas Waldo's. If you could get that added, that would be great. If there are no questions on disbursements or anything else, Trustee Hunter, would you like to make a motion?
Sure, I move to approve the consent agenda with the removal of the March 25th regular meeting minutes.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Consent agenda passes, and we are moving on to staff reports. And Stefan, I will turn it over to you.
Okay, first, thank you for honoring Autism Acceptance and Awareness Month. As you can see, it can be difficult, especially with a child with level 3 autism spectrum disorder. But this community has been very supportive of him, and we have an excellent school that also provides excellent education. Autumn wanted to give a public comment, but she had to. Attached to you'll see our budget to actuals. These are our monthly budget to actuals. And I should explain to some of you that might not understand, these are unaudited, and they're meant to be a guide for us as staff to see where we are with expenditures. Right now, we should be about 25% through the year, which means our expenditures should be about 25%. You'll see that in the water department, they're over, but we've also started a capital improvement project and did a lot of site work. So what might not be updated on these are like bank reconciliations that show revenue that has come in, but I can tell you there was revenue booked up until the end of March. So that is pretty accurate for this budget to actual. I did update our grant. I think at one of our previous meetings, it was asked that we put the total grant funding, the total that we have received, and the remaining grant balance. That's now at the bottom. I haven't added, or I did add the tier 2 grant that we got for $1 million for the Western Loop Water Project. What I haven't added is the $3 million principal loan forgiveness for our state revolving fund, only because we haven't executed that loan yet. So that's something that you're going to hear later tonight is bond counsel so that we can get that loan executed. And then I also have word, I put it in, I'll go into the report here in a little bit, but we did hear back on our safe routes to school, and it's good news. Going through with what we have for revenue, that bottom line that we want to look at is that net surplus to deficit where we are for the year so far. We're up 115, 133.99. That's because a lot of property taxes come in and a lot of sales taxes come in, but we're going to rely on continuing to receive those disbursements as the year progresses, so that we're not outpacing our expenditures. Expenses are pretty much right on par within all departments except, like I said, the water department, and that's because we did that capital improvement project that I'll talk a little more about. Let's see. Were there any questions on where we are for budget actuals?
I thought it was just interesting to note, like, just the total current balance of all of our accounts, that just a quick estimation, we made 17,000 in interest just in the month of March.
Yeah. So that's really good. It'll be interesting to see what the next few months play out as.
Yeah.
But we still have healthy investments, and it'll be interesting to see where that interest goes as we move. Wastewater is still doing okay. I'm going to go into some of the other projects in the other report that I have as well. Where we need to start watching is in sanitation or solid waste. We did have to replace the transmission in the garbage truck, and that put us at a deficit right now. It doesn't mean that it's less than our fund balance. We still have fund balance that could cover this cost. So we're not truly at a deficit, but for the year operating, we are. We do still have fund balance that covered that cost. That's previous year's surplus that are able to be used for this year. We'll have to keep watching this, but it could result in a budget amendment for the sanitation enterprise utility. Airport, I do have a little news on the airport. I have been working with the leaseholder, SBA. At the airport, they also have the lease for P Hill. There are 2 new cellular carriers that are going through the county to add on to the existing P Hill cellular tower, which means they're going to see more rent revenue. Doesn't mean we will. We're going to keep seeing the same revenue, but there's going to be additional services, service providers for our area. I've been working with them on the second tower that they own out at the airport, or that they lease from us. And I'm trying to get T-Mobile to locate there so we can see a little more. That one's a different kind of lease, and we should see a little more lease revenue should T-Mobile also relocate to that tower as well. Okay, now the bulk of my report. This is a first quarter of 25 town administrators report. Got an update for Fifth and Grand. So this is what we call Safe Pathways for Peonia. It's the Fifth and Grand Avenue realignment project. We have successfully received $1,010,592 from the Revitalizing Main Street program as a grant from CDOT. We just learned that the Statewide Transportation Advisory Committee, which met earlier or late last week, recommended that our project, Peonia Safe Routes to School Initiative project, go back to the Transportation Commission, or the CDOT's Transportation Commission, for $872,825 of additional funding. We're working on TCEs; those are temporary construction agreements with those property owners. So that's kind of the final package before we can go out to bid and start that project. To date, we have received $1,883,417 in grant funding. The project also will pull from the water utility, because we have this dig once policy, that once we've opened up the roadway, we're also going to replace our water mains in there, as well as the copper service lines for all of those properties adjacent to the project. And then we're also pulling $40,000 from the sidewalk fund, because it is about sidewalks, not just a street repair. That brings total grants and other sources for this project to $2,034,417. We estimate that project cost will be a little over $2.9 million, where the balance will come from our fund balance, as we plan in our budget, from our sales tax, capital improvement fund, and other general fund sources, for a total of $891,258. These estimates are intentionally inflated, and depending on when we go out to bid, what it looks like in the market, and because of contingencies. So we don't know what we're going to find once we open up those roadways, but we are confident that those bids should come in less. So any contractor that wants to bid on that, sharpen your pencils, because we do want to see those proposals come in less than what we've budgeted. But we did receive grant funding, and it sounds like we're going to get even more grant funding. The final decision will be made on April 16th. Okay, water capital improvement plan. So we are fully funded. Once we close our loan, we'll have an additional $9.7 million to put towards these projects, these 3 projects. It's the 2 million gallon water tank relining project, the nearly 2 miles of 8-inch steel replacement for the Western Loop or the Western Water Main replacement project, and then also for our collection system or our raw water source for metering and spring rehabilitation. We got a better than anticipated interest rate. So our interest rate for our base direct loan funding and our BIL funding is 1.5% over 20 years. That's excellent. And part of that is a $3 million in what they call the bipartisan infrastructure law or principal forgiveness. And so that is a grant. It was, as I've mentioned in other meetings, it was a 5-minute presentation. And I was shocked when they also approved a $3 million grant towards the project. It was great. But we are financing these projects and using a combination of grant funding. So we have already received $956,000 from a Tier 2 EIAF grant from the state to go towards our 2 million gallon water tank relining project. We've also received the full $1 million ask for our Western water line replacement, which we are one of very few, if not the only one, that got that full amount as we asked. That was a presentation that the mayor and I did in Eaton, Colorado. They gave us $1 million. So those are already under contract. Those grants are already under contract. What we're waiting on now is bond counsel so we can finalize our loan, and then that'll come to you for final approval. And then we should have another $9.7 million. So like I said, our projects are fully funded. We will be going out to bid this year. We're going to start doing some work in the pretty short future. All of these have attachments to them that make up the 111 pages of this report, so that you can see what I'm reporting on isn't just made up, it is factual. And so those are also attached if you have any questions. We do have an update at the end of this report from Public Works on the site work that was done at the 2 million gallon water tank. And then I give a condensed version or summary in the report that also talks about the 5 change orders and what they were for. You know, there's a whole lot of unknown things that come up, and one of them being a massive concrete steel reinforced structure that we didn't know existed, and we had to remove it. So showed that it had been removed on our as-built that we received during a previous project, I think in the 90s. It was never removed, and it is removed now. So all of those change orders were also described. We still have a few things to do with our Western Loop waterline project. A lot of it involves subsurface utility engineering, so we've still got to figure out what's in place in some of our right-of-ways, unless it's finished. Is it finished?
The engineers are gonna call those okay.
Okay, so they're coming.
Yeah.
I was hoping, darn it. They did some potholing in March, and then they also did one of the underlying bores, some SUE work there early on, but we're not quite there yet. And then we got to coordinate our easement contracts with our town attorney once that's up and running. Okay, let me see. This is where we're at with our water metering project, or our wall water metering project, and our spring rehabilitation. We're at 60% drawings. It's kind of hard to get up and get all the information and data that's needed with snow on the mountain. That's coming to an end soon. These are 2 graphics that we used in our presentation that I think were pretty relevant. to show the population that we serve. That's not just in town, but also out of town. And then those water rates. So although we're a town population of approximately 1,400, we service almost 3,000 people with water. And we've broken down our 3 phases into 2 really easy to identify subgroups. We've got phase 1 outcomes, and that's what we call secure, store, deliver. Phases 2 and 3, that's what we're calling a sustainable water future. We're going to use phase 1 to help inform any future phases. And that's what's been explained through multiple meetings, even with our engineers. That's enough about water. Now we're going to talk about wastewater. So we have a lot of things going on in the wastewater realm as well. We're in the middle of a project needs assessment. That's the same thing that we did for our water funding that we had to do in order to get any sort of state revolving funds, in order to get any grant funding. We have to do this project needs assessment. That's the first step. Once we have some cost estimates defined for what we need to do to meet any sort of requirements for our permitting with CDPHE, then we'll make a 20-year cash flow analysis similar to what we did with the water utility. But I need estimates for me to be able to model that out over 20 years. What rates have to look like, what a repayment schedule looks like, that kind of thing. We do have some things that need to be done still. So we do need to do a CCTV inspection of our existing sewer system. We had 3 catastrophic failures that resulted in major repairs over the last few years. Those are unplanned, and it's always easier to do planned than to go for an emergency. The cost always goes up. And part of that, collecting that data, is the CCTV investigation. Our next is the aerators that you've already approved. We still had to get approval from CDPHE because it's considered an in-kind replacement project. They're similar, but they're not quite the same. So instead of just blowing things around, they actually give a little more aeration. And it should be, we're hoping that it will be a better process for us in the end. And what we've done is we've submitted through our engineer to CDPHE for approval of that project. And this just kind of explains what we're changing and what what was there existing, what we're proposing to change it with. And then, we've already approved the funding for that. We just need CDPHE to sign off. And then this is something that I plan to bring to the municipal quarterly. It is a CDPHE enforcement discretion on general permits. And so we operate under a permit for our wastewater lagoon system, our wastewater treatment facility. And this is actually a hot button item on the Front Range. There were 40 communities that got together and said, hey, these general permits, they're not okay for us. You need to do something a little more specific based on the region, based on the community, based on what body of water the effluent flows into. And this was the result of that. The 40 communities on the Front Range coming together, they put, CDPHE said, hey, while we understand general permits aren't great, here's what we plan to do. And we'll use discretion in enforcement. Part of that is they aren't going to enforce for miscompliance or schedule milestones. No enforcement for failure to complete special studies related to groundwater protection or inflow and infiltration. And then there are report-only requirements. So they're asking you to still report all of your information. But I do plan to bring this to our upcoming municipal quarterly this month. We're hosting, so we will have our Delta County, other municipalities here talking about what we're doing. So trying to coordinate some activities as it relates to like grant funding and projects that we're working on. And it's always good to hear what other projects people are working on, because it might give us an idea, hey, we didn't know that grant existed. Again, though, that attachment is also included. And then I've also given the exhibits for those temporary construction easements. That makes up about 10 pages. That's so you guys can see what we do have to give to our, this is for the Fifth and Grand project, to those property owners, what we have to have them sign off on. And these are temporary, they're not in perpetuity. They're just so that we can do construction and get out of there. And that's our estimated, our updated engineer's preliminary opinion of cost for all of phase one projects. When we go out to bid, we really hope those prices come down. You can see that there's a 10 to 20% contingency for about $1.6 million that's built in case we find anything that we didn't anticipate. And I can tell you the West Loop water line replacement project, we will most likely find things that we don't know existed. So there's that. And then these are the change orders that make up, and I thought I had, there it is. And so I asked Corey to put together a timeline of what went on out at the 2 million gallon tank relining project for site work. This is a more detailed response than what was in my report, complete with pictures. So you can see what all of these change orders meant. And I don't see the concrete box in this one. Oh, it's this one. So this picture right here, right? This one, it looks small, but if I were to stand next to it, I would go up to maybe not quite halfway. So it's a massive box that was just kind of left, and it's no longer there. So, okay, that's it for my report.
Questions for the administrator?
Just a comment. Good job on the grants, for sure. Thank you.
And that was a whole
We've come a long way. Yes, trustee Schwartz.
Along that lines, I think about a year ago and just all of the planning that went down, and I thought, oh, there's no way. I mean, how is this gonna happen? I mean, the funding just seemed astronomical, and I really appreciate just the systematic nature of which you've pursued this and getting all of our ducks in order. So we're after this and then that, and it's just amazing. And I really, if you have not looked at this, the report that Corey from Public Works did, it's so helpful because I know you're not able to get up there and see what's going on, but just to see these pictures and to read about it and to know just how important this is for the overall water system. So thanks for your report in this, because it really is helpful to hear what's going on.
Thank you. Officer Henderson, are you gonna do our police report?
Absolutely. Well, I can't.
Sorry.
Well, while I can't claim millions, I mean, I can let you know that we did get 21 tickets. So our department is now taking it upon itself to start paying in the ICS program, which is the incident command system for FEMA. It kind of helps safeguard us to have a better understanding of bigger events, such as like in '94 with the Anda Wake fire here in Paonia, that we needed, resources from other agencies. Agencies can get together as a command system to better, utilize people and resources. Because during that, then I believe Storm King Mountain happened as well, and our resources kind of divvied out. So this is just to get a better understanding. We're training with other agencies. With that, I believe Administrator Van and Chief Laminger both attended a countywide integrated preparedness workshop. Brings the communities together, several departments, to identify training opportunities, emergency planning weaknesses and strengths. If I remember right, I believe those two kind of headed it up. The workshop allows the community departments to evaluate their overall emergency preparedness and put plans in place to address areas of concern. On a little bit of a lighter note, we worked with the Paonia K-8, and we had 6 students nominated by the staff there. They were recognized for neighborliness, respect, and outstanding safety for the school, and they were given 6 bicycle helmets from our program. It kind of helps us, get integrated a little bit more into the schools, like Officer Manager has been doing, and just to promote our bike safety, because that roadway is very crazy at times. So we would rather them have as much safety equipment as possible, and, giving out 6 is a great deal. We would also like to remind the public that, along with allergies, we're finding the spring is here and everybody's starting to burn. So we would like to, if you are going to burn and have an agriculture burn, that you contact the Delta County Burn Line, which is 970-399-2955. All persons, and it says all persons conducting open burning other than agriculture burning are required to obtain an open burning permit from the Air Pollution Control Division, the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. More information can be found at their open burn tile/permits at the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. We're also going to attach that to our department website. That way people can have access to that as well. But it's best just to let people know before you start burning, because I can promise you, everybody's gonna be calling in. I see a plume of smoke, and then we inherently have to go check it out. Sometimes we have the fire department, which is volunteer, start rolling that way. And sometimes we're just wasting resources because somebody just didn't feel like they needed to call if they're making a giant plume of smoke. But we don't normally get a lot of that within the city limits, but sometimes we do. So it's better safe than sorry. But as far as our month of March, we did have approximately 83 calls for service. Like I explained earlier, while it's not millions, but we did write 21 tickets of various value. We gave out 8 verbal warnings, 1 written warning. We assisted the county or other agencies upwards of 6 to 7 times with 2 arrests. So it was a pretty busy month for March, but it's going to start picking up because it's getting warmer.
Questions for Sergeant Henderson?
Can I just add to that? So April 25th at the Colorado City and County Management Association, I put in a proposal, it was selected, and we're doing an emergency preparedness roundtable. Chief Laminger is going to participate as a panelist, and so is Chris Stewart. It's about how it's important to coordinate and plan and do these tabletop exercises so that if there were a real emergency event, we know how to respond to it. And I do have to toot my own horn. I'm already ICS 400 certified FEMA, so but it came with the job down south. So
I apologize. Which number? I think I had 7. So I am not downplaying that, but to add to that, for our small town and our chief of police of 6 people and our city administrator to help head this program, that's a huge attaboy to us, because they're talking to people like Garfield County, Delta County, much bigger entities. But for us to be like panelists for that, that's a big deal for us. It shows that we're taking that initiative to be prepared. And if something comes and we can all work together as a group, it'd be great.
that's good.
I just wanted to add that the town has specific code about not open burning in town. Because really, you have to have it in a specific container. So I just want to make it clear that
Absolutely.
that it really applies to the county.
But if you are still going to illegally burn, you might as well call burn lights.
Thank you, Sergeant Henderson, and you were the first one to show up, I'm sure.
Oh, probably. And with that, I'm ready to get some tea.
Thank you.
You're not staying?
Bye, guys.
Thanks very much. Yeah, oh, yeah. Go. Any other questions? Okay, with that, we will turn to actions and presentations. And public comments will be asked for on each topic, and there's a 3-minute time limit. And I don't know how many people, and I think it says it at the podium, but our timer, the yellow light will go off in the middle and you have 45 more seconds, and then red means your 3 minutes is up. just so people are aware of the timing. So our first is consideration of approval of purchase of playground chips for the town park, Lee's Park, and Apple Valley Parks. Who would like to speak to that?
I can. So per playground standards, we're supposed to have a certain depth of ground cover around all the playground equipment. We are very much below that standard as of now. We did a little touch up in 2023, but it wasn't nearly enough to get us up to code. Our playground chips are getting pretty old. They get musky and gross, and so we're going to remove as much as we can that's pretty outdated and replace it. So I was able to get 2 bids. Third one never came in. They were trying to get them trucked over from Denver, and I was like, that's gonna be super expensive, and they just never called me back. So we got 2 bids, one from Pioneer Sand and one from the Rock Shop. I forget what it says it on there.
The Rock Shop.
Rock Shop, yeah. We recommend Pioneer. We have used them before. They have pretty good pricing. Their trucking is in there. So about 15,000 to do the entire park at the minimum height, which is 9 inches. So this will do Apple Valley Town Park and the swings at Lee's Park.
Was this in our source of safety audit as well?
Yes, it was.
So-
Any equipment over 8 feet needs 12 inches. Anything below 8 feet 9 needs at least 9. This will bring us to 9.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from trustees? Yes, trustee Schwartz.
This is so silly, but we're talking wood chips, right? Okay.
There's certain standards.
It's engineered wood fiber.
Yes, but there's a certain kind, so you can't just go by or,
Okay.
chip a tree and throw it out there. These are tumbled, so they're not supposed to be
Splintery.
splintery.
Okay.
They're specific for playgrounds. There's only a certain materials you can even use, but grass is not one of them, so we have to cover it up. And we have moved away from sand, which we have had in the past for sanitary reasons as well. So we're gonna replace the wood chips.
And I'm just, even though it says I'm engineered, they're not like, they don't have chemicals in them. It's
No.
just really just tumbled wood chips.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you for that.
the acronym for it, but there's an acronym that goes after it that says it's not toxic, non-toxic.
These aren't dyed or.
No, they're just yellow wood color.
Tumbled.
And tumbled. That is what I was told.
Any comments from the audience?
Where's Lee's Pub?
Please come on up to the podium so we can all hear
It's
you.
very short.
Yeah.
Where is Lee's Pub? Lee's.
It's a trailer park that's just north of the Nixis School on Boxell. It's got kind of a roundabout.
Oh,
and
yeah.
The park, the grassy part in the middle.
Yeah. Right, yeah. Any other questions or comments from the audience on chips? Okay, seeing none online either, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Any other trustee comments, questions?
One more thing. Did you have this budgeted for?
I'm gonna turn that over to Stefan. I left that blank on purpose so he could.
Not a full 15,000, but we do have funding available in our conservation trust fund that has gone unused. Even a little over 28,000.
Okay. We have to.
I know.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the bid for PlaySoft, 19,000 square feet and 9 inches in depth to, hang on a second, Pioneer Sand and Olathe, sorry.
We have a second?
I'll second that.
All right. Motion and a second. You've got that motion. Okay? Yep, okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that passes unanimously. Thank you. Now, item number 2, consideration of quotes to repair and update the electrical at Town Park.
Oh, what is this? This is again. our-
So this also came out of our 2024 SRSA audit. In the audit, the concern was at the stage. They were using electrical cords permanently. That was not up to code. We do have an electrician on our crew now that was able to look at all the park electrical and is very outdated and was highly unsafe. We have an outlet that someone has just somehow mounted to a tree. So, yeah, it is rough. And so we kind of did a whole audit of the park and we were able to get 3 quotes for this one. To get those back up to code and going before the 4th of July, which is the first event at the park that would need electric. We have 2 local and 1 from Carbondale. All of them are very capable of doing this work. We have worked with a couple of them before, but Public Works does not necessarily have a record. I think there's a $6,000 one, a $13,000 one, and a $26,000.
I've got a very, very firm opinion that AB Electric would be the best one. They are local and also the most affordable.
Any comments or questions from trustees? Yes, trustee Hunter?
I just have a quite, like, are these bids comparable in what they're offering to provide? I'm just, that's a huge price difference. Does staff have any concern there?
Between the 6 and the 13, couldn't quite tell you. 26 is the one from across the mountain. Those are probably very competitive there. Between the 6,000 and the 13,000, the only difference I saw that I couldn't quite tell you is one budgeted for the electrical permit where the other one didn't, and then one budgeted for a lift, which they will need, and the other didn't. It might wash out. Those are the only 2 things that I saw. But otherwise, I couldn't tell you what electrical costs.
Well, I presume we'd have to get a permit and it'd be inspected, so. The requirement.
I think AB Electric has hers on there. It's the very first line item. So she put it in there, but there's not a lift in there, which they will need to remove the lighting at the skate park. It is in the other one. So that's why I think they might want you to do that. I think they're rather comparable in items needing replaced.
Would the lift have to be a, what's it called when they have a change order?
Oh, no, that's what they were informed, that you will need a lift for this project. Unless maybe they have one and they don't have to rent one. That very well could be too. So I don't want to necessarily throw that out there. It will be a change order. It might happen.
Trustee questions? Questions from the audience? Questions or comments from the audience or anybody on Zoom? Seeing none? Would someone like to make a motion if you don't have any further questions?
I make a motion to move forward with AB Electric to conduct all the electrical repairs in Town Park for a not to exceed of $6,763.38.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you.
No, it's just.
Town Park.
You had asked a question about budget before for the last one. This one actually is in our budget for this year, so.
Did you get a second? I did not. Okay, I seconded. Okay, thank you. I didn't hear it. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that passes unanimously. Thank you. Getting a lot of good things done this summer. Wow. All right. Item number 3, consideration of approval of using a sole source vendor for the temporary water tank. Nikki, are you on that?
I'm not, but I'll read it.
Is Corey online?
Corey's online.
Okay, Corey, you did take that?
I am. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
So this one is for the temporary tank in order to get CDPHE to even approve it. Our engineers worked with the Bioflex, which is the tank company. And so they kind of worked hand in hand with us to even get CDPHE to approve the temporary tank option. And I guess we're just looking to see if it's possible to sole source via Flex for instead of going back out to bid. If we put the whole thing out to bid, it will basically make it to where we have to start over from scratch, from square one. Like, I don't think the approval is going to pass on to another tank company from CDPHE.
So I got some more to add to this. So I thought this was going to make it in the packet. It did not. We did pass a purchasing policy last year. We got it in place. There are provisions within that purchasing manual that allow for sole source purchasing, provided that questions are answered either in the affirmative or with an acceptable response. And we did ask SGM, that's our engineer that is doing the work for the RFP for the water tank, to provide answers to those questions. The first question: what capability does the proposed contractor have that is critical to the specific effort, makes the contractor clearly unique compared to other contractors in the field? Temporary tank, their answer is the temporary tank requires bespoke piping manifolds, overflow piping, and tank fabrication that have been in development with the proposed contractor. Proposed contractors the availability, project understanding, and experience necessary to complete the temporary tank installation within the expected project timeline. The second question is, what prior experience of a highly specialized nature does the proposed contractor have that is vital to the proposed effort? Their answer: the proposed contractor has designed and installed hundreds of temporary tanks in the United States. Viking and Mayen, a subcontractor to the proposed contractor, specializes in designing and fabricating the bespoke tank inlet outlet piping. The inlet outlet piping arrangements have been approved by CDPHE. Modifications to the approved designs would likely require additional permitting work. Number 3, does the proposed contractor have a substantial investment that would need to be duplicated at the town's expense by another contractor entering the field? The answer: yes. The proposed contractor has already provided approved designs and a full submittal, since it's already been to CDPHE, as Corey explained and admitted. Number 4, if timelines are involved, why are they critical, and why can the proposed contractor best meet them? The answer: tight timelines are involved. The town needs to begin a rehabilitation of the existing 2 million gallon steel storage tank as soon as possible. If the rehabilitation work pushes into the colder months, the project will likely incur change orders for supplemental heating. If another contractor were pursued for the temporary tank, the timeline would almost certainly be delayed. Number 5, is competition precluded because of the existence of patent rights or copyrights? Simple answer is no. 6, does this acquisition require compatibility with the existing town equipment? The answer: controls integration work will be required to switch operation of the town's water treatment plant from being based on tank levels in the existing 2 million gallon tank to tank levels in the temporary tank. The submittal provided by the proposed contractor includes specific equipment to make the transition possible. Number 7, what unique characteristics does the equipment or material offered by the proposed contractor possess that are required to meet the town's needs? The answer: the equipment offered by the proposed contractor is specifically designed to integrate into the town's water treatment and distribution processes while conforming to CDPHE and NSF-61 regulations. And then number 8, is competition precluded because of existing equipment maintenance program contracts warranties? The answer is no. So those are the 8 questions that we have to consider for sole source purchasing. We baked them into our purchasing plan in case of issues exactly like this.
Questions from trustees? Okay, any questions from the audience? Comments? Okay, see none. In person or online? Are you ready to make a motion? Sure. Who would like to do that? All right, trustee Miller.
I move to direct staff to proceed with the proposed sole source contractor due to their qualifications in meeting the 8 requirements for sole source.
I'll second that.
Right, all in favor?
Aye.
Right.
I'm going to take a 5-minute break.
Okay, hang on, all right, that motion passes. Who would like to make a motion or a second? Okay, all right, 5-minute break. It's 7:30, come on back in 7:35. We're gonna call this meeting to order, please. It's 7:35. We got our 5-minute break. Hang on 1 second. All right, our next item is item number 4, consideration of directing staff and enforcing section 16-11-20, 16-11-30, and 16-1-100 of the Paonia Municipal Code. And this begins on page 82. For anybody looking for it in the agenda packet, and Administrator Nguyen, would you like to?
I sure can. So this is me asking for direction, right? These are existing codes. Now that the short-term rental ordinance has been repealed, what do we do? And it's been put into an email. You guys have all seen that. It's a rather lengthy discussion. We do have Clay on as well for any questions that you may have, our town attorney. But like I said, I need direction. There's no staff report because I don't know what to do. At this point, do we enforce the existing code? What do we do? And I end this email with an explanation that, we as staff have taken an oath to uphold our laws in town. And if I'm going to not enforce something, that needs to come from the legislative body. And if Clay has anything to add, or if you have any questions, please feel free to jump in.
Anybody want to have an opening remark or?
I think
Comments.
Clay, did you have something you wanted to add?
No, I'm just standing by.
Okay, very good. Trustee Hunter.
I just have a question on the attorney's interpretation of these code sections and their enforceability, basically as written.
I'm sorry, did you have a specific question? Or did you want me to kind of give you my 2 cents?
So in your reading of the town code as it currently exists, does it definitely disallow rentals under 30 days, in your opinion?
I don't think so. The reason being not because it's not necessarily disallowed, but the way that it's currently tucked into the renting of a room in a dwelling unit makes it such that the code doesn't even, as Stefan said, doesn't even give us any direction as to what we're doing with short-term rentals. It contemplates occupied dwelling units and owner-occupied dwelling units who are renting a room. That's really it. So it doesn't contemplate what a lot of short-term rentals could be, which is a second home or a single-family residential unit owned by a company, which happens. Basically, as we sit, there's really no STR specific regulations, which would make it incredibly hard to enforce. Say if somebody had a second home and they're renting it through Airbnb, we would not, in my opinion, be successful if challenged trying to enforce renting of a room in a dwelling unit as our current code defines it.
Thank you.
Any other input before we open it up to the audience? Yes, Trustee Short.
Does it have to be a question or can it just be a statement? Okay.
You can say whatever you like.
I think at this, it's not even like, I acknowledge that we have, like, staff is asking for direction. So it's our job as the Board of Trustees to give staff that direction, and especially after the recent vote. And I think in my mind, it's like, we should not be enforcing this. I think if we're gonna for the reasons that Attorney Buckner said, and then also I'd rather us spend our efforts moving forward. Because, yeah, there's a lot of momentum here. Let's tap into it and let's figure this out. So that's, I like forward progress. So, and I know that we got to clean this up. So that's what, I appreciate you bringing this forward so we can have this discussion, because we do need to just acknowledge it.
Yeah.
Trustee Hick?
Basically what she said, I think just let it go, not enforce it. If we start enforcing it, we're just gonna push the renters out in the country, and that'll cause a bigger problem. There's a flux of renters heading out there. We gotta get that squared away before we gotta get the cart ahead of the horse. Sort of.
I would like to propose that we have a workshop with public input to get specific complaints about the short-term rental ordinance that we did pass, because I think we need some kind of short-term rental. But if it was objectionable to the public, let's find out why and modify it and resubmit the ordinance. And I think it's kind of too late to do that for this summer season. So I don't believe we should at least have a moratorium on the enforcement of the statutes as they exist right now, since they haven't been enforced before. So let's give them a grace period while we work on having a workable short-term rental ordinance.
Yes, trustee Stelter.
The opponents of the short-term rental regulations have offered to bring forth something, and I would encourage that strongly. And then we should take some time, take those suggestions into account, and then have a very short public comment period, and then go ahead and write a new short-term rental regulation and let it be known that next season, this is what's going to happen. I think that if we give 90 days, which is what we did for the vote, if we give them 90 days to bring this forth, and then we take another 90 days, we can have this written before we get hammered with December, with our budget season, when we get extraordinarily busy. And I think that the short-term regulation, if we eliminate some of the worst unliked sections or modify them, that we can probably use the same template and get this done in a very short fashion.
With that,
Clarify our budgets starts in like October.
just a short.
I just want to clarify that I think as trustees, our decision tonight is on ordinance and whether or not to enforce it, and not on moving next steps. I think at the next agenda, we should have it on the next agenda or two or whatever. But I want us to be very clear that our decision tonight is not what are next steps, because it's not on the agenda. But let's have it, we know we want to have it on the agenda. So I think I'm correct on that. I am correct.
So, I know people are here who would like to speak, so I would like to open it up to the public to come on up to the podium to have your opportunity to do so. And I will then bring it back to the trustees to decide on a motion or motions, whatever. So at this, yes, come on up.
This is like being in school and I want to get it over. So, let's see.
You have someone online who wants to speak.
Okay, thank you. I'll do that person next.
Okay, I'm encouraged to hear what you were just saying. I looked up the definition repeal: to void or annul, to withdraw or reverse. On January 14th, 2025, upon a successful petition to repeal ordinance 2405, the town board decided to, rather than repeal it that night and work toward revising it, the vote of the board was to place 2B on the April 1st ballot for voters to decide. A week ago, the vote of the people was allowed 70% in favor of repealing this ordinance. The result testifies that this is not, in quotes, a vocal minority that doesn't want regulations in short-term rentals, in a quote. Tonight, I came with the expectation of hearing from the town as to how they were going to replace ordinance 2024-05, since it is void dead. But instead, I see on the agenda of how the staff is going to be instructed on enforcing section 161120, 161130, and 161100 of the Paonia Municipal Code, in which I do not see the term short-term rental mentioned. What is it that I am misunderstanding about the process of repealing an ordinance? Shouldn't the town be working with those who are most affected by this repealed ordinance, the short-term renters, to create an ordinance that will work better for all, especially since it is closely tied to an upcoming expiration of a grant dated April 30th, 2025. Is this grant the push behind the town addressing short-term rentals as a possible solution to affordable housing? Another quote of interest is, the voters can decide, but we will have to come back and address short-term rentals. The state is expecting us to address short-term rentals. I ask why. I will finish by saying the people have spoken. Let's do something about allowing the people to participate in crafting a new and better ordinance. And I feel like, just listening to you, you're open to this too. And I think, communication is really important. And if any of you want to talk to me personally, I'm open to it. Thank you.
Thank you. And there's somebody online who wanted to speak. If that person would like to go ahead.
That was Pete.
Oh,
hello, thank you very much, and good evening, Mayor Smith, members of the board, and members of the town administration. I came with a prepared statement. I was pretty worried about the agenda item talking about the code enforcement, and I'm very grateful and pleased to hear that there's going to be an open table. Just really quickly, I'm a resident of Palmer Lake, Colorado. Although I hang my hat here currently, I grew up in Paonia. I still call Paonia my home. It always will be my home. I have family there still, 5 generations deep. My roots run there, and I love Paonia, and my heart is 100% with the community. And I know that you're all sitting there because in those chairs because you care and because you want to make the town stronger and a place where families can put down roots and businesses can grow and people can afford to live and work and build a future. And I think that together we can build, a balanced ordinance that allows us to find that sweet spot where we can all do those things and find a thriving economy and still protect property rights and I bought my grandma's house so that I could move back there. So I'm not a short-term rental investor. I think we've been painted sometimes as these money grubbers trying to make hand over fist on Airbnbs. I don't make a whole lot of money. I'm just trying to keep the lights on and get back to Paonia. So I really appreciate the spirit of collaboration, and I'm super happy to hear that the enforcement will not be something to worry about in the interim. And I just thank you for your hard work. I know it's a challenge to find a balance, and I know I've been sending lots of emails, so I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be a thorn in anyone's side, but this is a important matter to me, just not because of my home, but because I care about the town. So thank you very much, and I'm very encouraged to hear that we can work together on this. Thank you.
thank you, Mr. Gensler. And no one else online, correct? Okay, anyone else in the audience? Suzanne, come on. You were next.
Suzanne Watson. Yeah, I knew Dick Gensler. He was my neighbor. He lived around the corner from me, and he's not alive anymore, but he welcomed me when I came here. He was one of the old timers, but he was very jovial, and I appreciated that. So Pete, I guess I don't know, is that your granddad? Yeah, so I was a little concerned when I saw the agenda because you reference, two different ordinances here. And one is called home occupation permits. And I know you are thinking of that maybe in terms of the short-term renting, but I mean, this speaks to this code that we have right now. That's like a round hole and we're all square pegs. We don't fit into it anymore. When you look at the home occupation permit, think of how many people in this town have home occupations between artists and craftsmen and carpenters, doing some of their work at home. We have remote workers. We have people who have LLCs out of their homes. And very rarely do people actually apply for permits until they get on the board and they're a public figure. And then it's kind of necessary because everybody's looking at them. But you know, it's part of this code that hopefully we're going to be rethinking and re-looking at when we do the comprehensive plan. And I don't know exactly what Leslie Klusmeyer is doing right now. You know, this is all going to be part of that. So I would see this short-term rental ordinance feeding into the new plan for our future. And that saying, I do want to mention, there are codes that we still don't enforce. We have this code here, 16.330, table 16.2, and it's called minimum lot coverage. We requires a 6,000 square foot lot for R1, R2, and R3, and the minimum lot coverage requires you to cover 30% when you build on it. Have we been enforcing this? I know we've had some houses going, that means there's 2,000 square feet of that lot that have to be covered. And this was one of those things that was supposed to be fixed. So I think there are a lot of things, it's kind of hard to be hardcore and applying the code to one group of people when it's kind of mushy everywhere else. But that being said, Leslie, the contractor did say that the family definition has to be changed because that changed at the state statute of people rooming with you. And yeah, and she also said that the monthly or longer basis, it doesn't belong in definitions because it causes confusion and regulation doesn't belong in the definition. So there are a lot of things that need to be fixed on this code, and like the attorney alluded to, it's probably going to be hard to enforce. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Madeline. So I love Mr. Check and the gentleman over there's idea that it's really best to include the community. This is a unique and wonderful place. And I think it's really unfair to regulate, even if a person wants to rent a room in their home. Why does the government need to be in there? So that's whether short or long term. Sometimes I say we solve the houselessness crisis in Delta County because people share. They share their land. There's work trade there. It's a beautiful thing. Make too many rules and regulations, right? The more corrupt the society, and we will create a homelessness problem here where it doesn't exist. So for people out of towners that have a dwelling as an Airbnb, okay, make a different rule for that. And make that maybe only 30, but to include the people of Paonia that are renting out a room or two in their home so they can make ends meet and provide some housing, often affordable, it's a mistake, like overreach. And so please, Mr. Check and Mr. Stelter, I love your idea. Please inform the town, send out postcards to come together. And maybe there can already be a group working on this to propose to you something that is not tyrannical and not strangling people, and that doesn't create houselessness, and that doesn't say, oh, you can't rent your house out for 2 months while you take your family on vacation to cover your vacation costs. Be fair. So let the people speak. We have government by the people, for the people. I think the town, the community would love to work with you to propose something that's fair and that makes sense and that's not filled with too many rules and regulations. Let's have clear and fair. So please do hold the workshop. Send everyone a postcard in town and say, come to the workshop. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Who else in the room? Yes, Joseph.
Joe Yeamans, Hicks 18 3rd Street, Mayor Smith, trustees. I'm going to stick to my prepared comments. Referencing a comment you made, that's Mayor Smith, you made on the KBNF interview. We will take it step by step and lessons learned. Well, I've learned some things, and I hope you all have too. I've learned number one, trustees are out of touch with the sentiment of the voters of the town of Paonia, to wit, the recent vote of the repeal of ordinance 2024-05 by a 70% to 30% margin. Number two, the STR operators in Paonia need an ordinance to protect them from draconian enforcement measures, as stated in trustees Hunter's recent letter threatening cease and desist orders and heavy fines for non-compliance to existing municipal orders proposed. The trustees have not, and until this very moment, are not listening to the STR owners. Also during the KBNF interview, Administrator Wynn said there are two big issues regarding the shortage of affordable housing in Paonia. And they are regulation of STRs and classification as of ADUs by right. The trustees would tackle the lowest hanging fruit first, regulation of STRs. To further develop the lowest hanging fruit analogy, one, all the fruit is picked from the STR tree, and we'll call those 38 stars. The fruit goes into the packing shed, where there are only two possible bins into which the stars are placed. And it is not the sorter, but the fruit that chooses the box into which it will be placed. One is the LTR box, and the other is the anything but LTR box. When the sorting has been completed, there are 38 stars in the anything but LTR box and 0 into the LTR box. Despite the massive hard data presented in the Housing Needs Assessment and Action Plan, there was also 0 data collected from any STR owners. Neither has there been any trustee interviewing any of the STR owners. Bottom line, we are no closer to having an STR ordinance than we were 2 years ago. And there have been, and there will not be any conversions of STRs into LTRs. Hopefully the trustees will learn some lessons and take the next step to engage in dialogue with the STR owners and drafting a new ordinance. If not, we will be going around the draft the ordinance, petition the ordinance, repeal the ordinance loop until they do. I also hope the trustees can change their.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience? Seeing none, I'll take it back to the trustees. Yes, Trustee Hunter.
So I'll describe where I'm gonna go with the motion that I want to make, just, before I do it. My intention is to make a motion to put a 6-month moratorium on any enforcement of STR rentals. The reason I'm saying 6 months is because the moratorium needs to have an end date. And I'm hoping that we will have the comp plan approved and therefore forward momentum on our code rewrite, as well as hopefully a lot of momentum on a different STR ordinance before that. So that's my reasoning behind it, but it is my intention to put forward a motion for a 6-month moratorium.
Can I ask a question? I don't think we are going to see the code rewrite within that 6 months, because the code rewrite is kind of stalled by not having a comp plan. So I don't think that's going to be able to be part of the picture. And correct me if I'm wrong.
But
That we will not have that in front of us.
Right, but additionally, I mean, if the 6 months burns out and nothing happens, we can always do another moratorium and hopefully there'll be more short-term rental language between now and then.
So it's.
Yeah, let me hear from Administrator Wendy just to answer my.
So to be clear, there is no short-term rental ordinance. It has been repealed, right? And so what if there were a moratorium, it would be on enforcing these existing provisions of code as they relate to renting of rooms within an owner-occupied house. What Clay was talking about was there's, the other short-term rentals, the second home, the, renting that whole home, the corporations, there's nothing to say you can't rent that as a short-term rental right now. But the code does say that renting of rooms for less than a monthly basis can't happen, it needs to be enforced. If there were a moratorium, it would need to be on that enforcement. We will not have, and to be clear, it's not just that enforcement, but it's also ADA, which already exists, the International Building Code, which already exists in the code as well, section 161130. But we will not have those, our comprehensive plan ready to go for land development regulations by then. So this would have to be separate from any sort of code rewrite that's going on with Leslie Cruz.
Trustee Stucker, you had a question?
Yes, it's actually a statement. When I swore my oath of office, I swore to uphold the ordinances and laws of the state. And this makes me very uncomfortable to openly say that we are not going to enforce the ordinance. I know the reasoning, and I think a moratorium will work. We will have the comprehensive plan in effect. We will approve it in July. We have it scheduled.
No, that's only for the planning commission.
Right.
It still has to go to the trustees.
And it goes to the trustees. We should have this done in less than 6 months. The ordinance rewrites are well on their way, but it's stalled by the absolute halting of the comprehensive plan, which almost all of this problem we have with the ordinances has. Stalling this, the comprehensive plan was done in October, and we still are not anywhere near getting it done. So I would urge strongly that we get the comprehensive plan approved at ASAP, and then we work assiduously to clean up our ordinances. And that's what we hired a consultant to do. So I think a 6-month moratorium, which will take us out of the season, we should be able to get something done. And if we have to extend it 90 days, that's great. But what I really hate is the idea of getting into October when it's budget season and we are maxed out and we can't get anything done until end of November or December.
Did you have a thought?
Well, yeah, the current town ordinance actually, it seems to me, is more concerned with renting a room in a house as opposed to what we think of as short-term rentals, which is usually a whole house for a short period of time, a day or a week or something. So we don't really cover short-term rentals. And that's what we were trying to do. And I understand there's two different perspectives here. It's from personal and from the community. The community wants to have some kind of regulation so we don't get overwhelmed with too many short-term rentals in the town. And that's at least was our effort in passing short-term rental. And this is just kind of archaic code that seems to me, like I said, refers more to renting a room. And I thought when we were working on short-term rentals, they were actually two separate things. Renting a room in your house or having a short-term rental that is for like a vacation.
But both require the license.
Right.
So, okay. So going back to your thoughts, I don't know if that changes your 6 months. I mean, are you still want
I'm
to
still
proceed with
comfortable
that?
with that. The
Okay.
one question I have is in my wording, if I talk about, let me just take a shot at it. We ready for that? Okay.
Oh, hang on.
Okay, I would ask the attorney to, like, if there's a motion in a second, before any sort of vote happened, to weigh in on what that motion actually means.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep. Okay, so due to ambiguity in our existing municipal code, I move that we direct staff to not enforce the rentals of any rooms or homes for less than 30 days.
Monthly basis.
On a monthly basis.
Wait, what's the monthly basis?
Yeah, I'm
Our
confused.
code says monthly or longer basis,
Oh, okay.
Oh,
not just 30, it's 28 days in February, sometimes 20.
so you're mimicking the language in there. Okay. Could you say it again?
Due to ambiguity in the existing town Peonia municipal code, I move that we instruct staff to not enforce the regulation of any rentals of a room or a home for less than 30 days on a monthly basis.
I'm confused
Yeah.
by 30 days and a monthly basis. It seems like you just pick one or the other. I don't
On a
understand.
monthly basis.
Okay,
Sorry.
Less than
Yeah.
basis.
Yeah, let's.
okay, let me take it out.
Yeah.
Still gonna stick with my preamble, due to ambiguity in the code. I move that we instruct staff to not enforce any regulation on rentals of rooms or homes on a monthly basis.
Less than.
Oh, dear God. What you're saying is that I can't rent my house next door on a monthly basis. You want it to be less than a month, right? Right?
Yep, isn't that what I started off with though?
Well, you're saying month, you're making it sound like you're not, to me, you're not clarifying that it's less than.
For less than a month.
That's what I'm confused by. Okay.
I second that.
Can we have the attorney weigh in, please?
Yeah, guys, I would just make a motion that you don't want to enforce this particular section of the code. So, I would just go to the code and say you don't want us, that you don't want us to enforce any lodging requirements under the section 1611 at sequence at sequitur, or however you want to say it. Just make sure that it doesn't really matter. I think we're good enough. I think we know what you're trying to say, whether it makes total sense or not, but for the minutes and for the recording and the public, I think I would just say that you are moving to direct staff that you don't want staff to enforce the rental of room section of the code regarding the rental of a dwelling unit or a rental of a room on a monthly basis or longer, or something to that effect.
My only problem with that is the ambiguity in the code. So looking at section 161120 is home occupations. I don't want to direct staff to just not enforce that section of the code.
Yeah, just direct staff not to enforce the section of the code that deals with disallowing any rental of a room in a dwelling unit for less than a monthly basis, or vice versa. Not enforce the language on a monthly basis or longer.
Can you read that?
Again, or words to that effect. We understood. I think staff is clear on what you guys want. I think you just need to put the motion in.
So I was.
And I think the specific section is 161130.
I was kind of recrafting it while our town attorney was talking. So due to the ambiguity in our municipal code, make a motion to instruct staff not to enforce the section of the code that deals with the renting of rooms on less than a monthly basis.
Or withdraw that section. Or.
And I forgot to add the 6 months, so who seconded?
I did.
What's the cleanest way to do this? Should I withdraw it and start over? Okay, I withdraw my motion.
I withdraw my motion.
Second.
My second.
I withdraw my motion.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to take a try?
No, you're doing really good. But can I ask one thing? Are you also, are you wanting the staff to not enforce renting a dwelling unit for less than a month? Because that is, you were also concerned about dwelling units, a whole house being rented less than a month, which is in the definition in 16-1.
I want to instruct staff to not enforce the regulations of any short-term rentals, basically. So in defining that, be that a room or a whole house or anything for a month or less.
I think that's what you need to say, because if you're only focusing on the renting of rooms, you're not going to get to the whole
At
house.
some point I did say.
Right, but it didn't make it in, got stuck on the written. Yeah.
To be clear, there is no ordinance on short-term rentals. So there's nothing on a whole home. Our code only contemplates, as the attorney had said, owner-occupied rooms, which is 161130.
What about the definition of dwelling unit? That it has to be
If
leased
you-
or
if-
rented for more than 30
My
days.
concern is that if you say anything with 161100, all of the definitions within that chapter are gone.
Right, no, and I'm not suggesting that, but did you want to allow people to rent their whole house for less than 30 days?
I don't want to enforce any regulations on any rentals for under 30 days.
That's the way to say it then. To
Under a
me,
month.
Thank you.
yeah, because that covers.
Well, 28
everything.
days is under 30 days.
Yes, but that covers everything you're intending. Correct?
I make a motion due to code ambiguity that we instruct staff to not enforce the regulation of any rentals of homes or rooms in homes for less than a month with this as a moratorium going into effect for 6 months from today. For 6 months starting today. Oh, my word.
She got it. Sam got it.
I'll second.
Okay. John Valentine, I have not turned to you on Zoom as to whether you have any input, or are you ready to vote?
I'm ready to vote.
All right. With that, all in favor?
Aye.
I don't hear opposition, correct? It was a unanimous aye. Okay.
Thank you for bearing with me.
No, thank you for sticking your neck out. All right, we are moving on to item number 5, consideration of services agreement with Butler Snow Bond Council.
Conversation.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, all right. Go in the hall if you'd like to speak to each other. Thank you. Item number 5, which is a service agreement with Butler Snow Bond Council for the CWR PDA loan.
Okay. Bond counsel, this is what was talked about in my town administrator report. We need bond counsel. They have to review all of our loan documents. You know, we're asking for what, $9.7 million in funding. They have to review all of those documents. And they'll also look at the rate covenants and make sure that what we have proposed for the next 4 years will cover repayment of those loans. And then anything within our 20-year cash flow, if that those rates will also cover repayment of the loans. We really need them. $18,000 for Butler Snow, one of the most highly recommended bond councils in the state. I think is an excellent sum. They've already started work too, so.
Any questions from trustees?
This is real cheap insurance for the town.
Any comments from the audience?
Is this an annual fee?
No, this is a one-time.
Okay, thank you.
And so what you'll also see is that a recommended motion includes up to 20,000. In case there's any unforeseen here, I would really ask for that $2,000 cushion because we have no idea what might happen.
Someone other than trustee Hunter.
I move to approve the engaging of services of Butler Snow for bond counsel in the amount not to exceed $20,000.
All right.
I'll second.
Trustee Check, seconded, and all in favor?
Aye.
Hearing no nays, that passes unanimously. We are on to item number 6. Consideration of agreement with MHAC for ADA transition plan and evaluation.
Okay, we did have a protest of a bid, but he has since changed his, after I responded to him, changed his opinion. I want to share that email with you because it was actually a really good response. So, like I said, he has withdrawn that station of a bid. What had happened was he didn't follow the RFP rules, which said to email it to myself and the town of Paonia. He used BidNet as a submission, which was expressly not allowed within our RFP. And we had 7 other respondents that went through the appropriate process. And his response, this is ACPCO, Nick Kelly, their principal, said, thank you for your response and clarifying the submission requirements outlined in the request for proposals. I appreciate you taking the time to explain the matter. I now fully understand that our proposal submission to BidNet did not meet the instructions on pages 14 and 15 of the request for proposals. This was an oversight on our part, and I take full responsibility. It was never our intention to deviate from the required process, and I completely understand why our proposal was not accepted. We are generally interested in the opportunity to work with the town of Paonia and hope that there may be future opportunities where our team can support the town's accessibility efforts. If another opportunity arises, we will be sure to follow all submission guidelines closely and reach out in advance if there are any questions. In the meantime, we wish the town the very best in selecting and working with MHAC, and we hope the project is a success. Thank you again for your time in maintaining a transparent and fair process. Please let me know if you need anything further from me. We implemented this RFP process late in 2023 and our RFQ process. Leslie Klusmeyer brought to us BidNet, but we really honed our RFPs and RFQs to make sure that what they do, those are requests for proposals, requests for qualifications, to really put into a document what we're looking for in a consultant. And I think that's been really helpful. It stopped something like this, which could have caused us to reject and go back out to bid. Because we had that language in there, it's pretty important. And we use a very transparent process, right? We use BidNet. We do amendments. So if there are questions, we answer those questions and add them as an addendum to that RFP so that everyone gets our responses at the same time. We try to be as fair and transparent as possible. That's something that I brought and improved with what was already happening. So that stopped us from having to go back out to bid. MHAC was selected as the town's ADA consultant during our March 25th meeting. And this is their services agreement to complete the ADA transition plan and self-evaluation. It is attached as an attachment. They were also the least expensive of all the consultants. And every one of their references that I called and returned their phone call to me so that they don't have change orders unless they're owner driven, and that they complete things on a timely. So they were very those references were very good for MHEC. So I don't believe that we may not need a budget amendment because we do have fund balance that was also considered. But if those expenditures go higher than what we have budgeted for, we would need a budget amendment within the general fund. This can't come out of water. It can't come out of wastewater or trash. It has to come out of a general fund or like a sales tax capital improvement plan.
Any first questions?
Just a thanks. I was curious, like the question I had last time was about change orders because they were the lowest. So I appreciate you finding out that hasn't been an issue.
Their references were, glowing. So nobody's had anything bad to say about, and they work with communities as large as Fountain to as small as us, and all over the state.
Any comments from the audience participants? Okay, seeing none. No further questions. Would someone like to make a motion?
I move to approve the services agreement with MHAC in an amount not to exceed $33,500.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Hearing none opposed. That's a unanimous approval. Our last item is item number 7, consideration of a letter to the BLM regarding the supplemental environmental analysis dual operator 5-pad proposal EA and Bull Mountain Unit Master Development Plan EIS. And this is being brought forward by myself to it. So the town has been quite involved with all of the proposals of the BLM up in the Forest Service, west of us. And this was recently, let me get to my report. Thank you very much. Oops, that didn't work. So the BLM was asked because Citizens for Healthy Community filed a lawsuit, and over time, it ultimately ended up with the director of the state BLM, who looked at it and said that they needed to do a revised environmental analysis based on the gas emissions and cumulative hazardous pollutants associated with the 2 projects in the title here, and to also look at the third project, which is, tell me, and if you'll come up. So Natasha and I worked together on this letter. I reviewed the content and she did as well. And we put together a draft that you see attached. And ultimately, there were 3 things that they analyzed for that we felt were not appropriately detailed enough. And that's, they didn't consider the disproportionate level of local warming in the North Fork Valley, the cumulative impacts of these projects combined with the West Oak coal mine in Gunnison County, and the low producing wells in the North Fork Valley that are produce so little that they are under the radar for CDPHE's air emissions regulations. And then the third was the accuracy and relevancy of the data that they use in their environmental analysis to come to the finding that there was no significant impact. So the letter that is attached is in response to this latest document. But one of the things I wanted to add in was the letter that we sent to the BLM in February 13th of 2024. It is that very long attachment, but we were asked to be cooperators for the entire RMPA amendment. And Stefan and I have been cooperating with the BLM. That project seems to have stalled. We have not heard from the BLM on that. That's a bigger resource management plan amendment. But I felt like it was really important to resend this letter because it shows the importance of our agricultural economy in the North Fork Valley. And I personally am feeling that the BLM is not taking that into consideration in all of the decisions they're making that can impact us and our economy. So therefore, I'd like to, ask that you all approve the town sending this letter on to the BLM. And the comment period ends April 14th. And so I can answer questions, but Natasha could probably answer questions of a more technical nature than I can. But we did work together on this, and I personally feel like the town of Paonia has been pretty vocal about our concerns with gas development, and this is just another opportunity for us to express some concerns and lack of real clarity in the data. So with that, questions for me?
Just a comment. Thank you.
Yes.
I'm very concerned and I very much appreciate the work that both of you do.
Anything else? Anybody else? And any questions from the audience or anybody online? Okay, if you don't have any questions for Natasha or myself, I guess I'd ask for a motion.
Could I ask Natasha, what's your position? I'm the executive director for Citizens for a Healthy Community.
Okay.
And good evening, trustees. It's always a pleasure to see you. And thank you. This is the largest scale project that we've seen, so it's just so important to comment on.
I'll happily make a motion on this one. I move to approve sending the letter on behalf of the town of Paonia as written.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that motion passes. Thank you. All right. So I adjourn this meeting, and please don't leave until